The alley smelled like old fish and burning rubber. The kind of place no one came to unless they were desperate or dangerous.
Zion didn't want to be in that alley.
But today, he had no choice. 12-year-old Zion crouched behind a stack of rusted crates, trying not to breathe too loudly. His heart thumped against his ribs, echoing louder in his ears than the shouts behind him. Where'd he go? He was right here. You see that rat again? I'll crack his head open. Zion curled tighter into the shadows, clutching the torn nylon bag slung across his shoulder. It held everything he owned in the world: a worn-out blanket, a dull shoeshine brush, a half-cracked toothbrush, and an old photograph with the edges burnt and fading. A photo he looked at every night before falling asleep. He didn't know who the woman in the picture was, but she looked kind, and something inside him said she mattered. Zion couldn't remember much about his early years. Just blurred images, running feet, dark rooms, a gentle voice humming a lullaby. Then nothing, only the streets. Zion, a voice barked. Zion flinched. That was Shaka, the leader of the gang that controlled this corner of the docks. Bigger boys who ran errands for thugs and took whatever they wanted from younger kids like him. Zion bit his lip, eyes darting around. He couldn't stay hidden much longer. Then, too late. A hand grabbed the back of his collar and yanked him out from the crates. Gotcha now, rat. Zion tried to break free, but Shaka was too strong. He dragged him into the middle of the alley where 3 other boys waited, all bigger, all grinning. I told you, Zion, Shaka sneered. You don't shine shoes in our territory unless you pay your tax. I don't have anything, Zion said, his voice calm despite the fear twisting in his stomach. I used it to buy medicine for Mama Effe. Mama Effe. That blind bat's still breathing. One of the boys laughed. Shaka grabbed Zion's shirt and shoved him against the wall. Maybe next time, you'll think before stealing from us. I didn't steal. Zion shouted. Wrong move. Shaka's fist slammed into his stomach. Zion collapsed to the ground, gasping. The boys laughed. One kicked his bag aside. Its contents spilled onto the dirt. His photograph fluttered a few inches away. And that's when it happened. Hey, a man's voice thundered. What the hell is going on here? The boys froze. A sleek black SUV had pulled to the edge of the alley. The man who stepped out was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed like someone who didn't belong anywhere near this part of town. His sharp navy coat rippled slightly in the wind, and his polished shoes clicked against the gravel. Silas Mendez. One of the richest men in the country. Billionaire property developer. The face of charity galas and magazine covers. Zion didn't know who he was, but Shaka did. Come on, Shaka hissed, grabbing his boys. Let's go. They bolted before Silas took 2 steps forward. Zion lay on the ground, clutching his stomach, dirt and blood on his lips. He looked up at the stranger who now stood above him, silhouetted by sunlight and something else. Presence. A quiet authority. You all right, kid? The man asked. Zion coughed and forced himself to sit up. I'm fine. You don't look fine. I've had worse. Silas knelt beside him. Where are your parents? Zion looked him dead in the eyes. Don't have any. Something in the man's expression changed. A flicker of pain. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small wad of clean bills. Here. For food. Or shelter. Zion's eyes narrowed. I'm not a beggar. Silas tilted his head, impressed. Then consider it a payment. For the lesson I just watched you teach those bullies. You've got guts. Zion hesitated, then reached out and took the money. Silas stood. You shine shoes. Zion nodded. Come by my office sometime. I've got a lot of dusty shoes. Ask for the receptionist at Mendez Holdings. Tell her the man in the navy coat sent you. He turned to leave, but something caught his eye. A small piece of paper lying on the ground. Silas bent and picked it up. It was a photo. Old. Faded. A woman smiling as she cradled a newborn baby. His breath caught. That face. Those eyes. He knew that woman. He'd loved that woman. Eva. College sweetheart. The girl who vanished one night without a trace. No goodbye. No message. Just gone.
and he had never understood why.
His hand trembled. Zion snatched the photo back, stuffing it into his bag. "Thanks," he muttered. Silas stood there for a long moment. Then he walked away. That night, Zion sat in the back of the abandoned bus that he called home, with Mama Effe curled up on her cot beside him. The wind howled outside, and rain tapped softly on the metal roof. He stared at the photo again under the dim flashlight. "Mama Effe," he whispered, "do you think I'll ever find out who she was?" The old woman stirred. "The woman in the picture?" Zion nodded. "She looks like she loved me." "She probably did, child. But some stories, they get lost in the wind." Zion didn't respond. He wrapped the blanket tighter around himself and drifted into uneasy sleep. Elsewhere across the city, Silas Mendez sat in his study, alone. He opened the drawer he hadn't touched in years, pulled out a wooden box. Inside it were relics of a different life. Old love letters, dried petals, a wristband from a music festival, and a photograph. The same photograph. Only his was torn. Only Eva. The baby had been cut out. He hadn't even noticed at the time. Now he couldn't stop staring. Could that boy be?
No.
He shook the thought away. Too many years. Too many questions. Too much pain. But even as he told himself to forget it, something inside him whispered otherwise. That boy has her eyes. That boy is not just a street kid. That boy might be yours. Silas Mendez had made deals worth billions. He had bought skyscrapers, reshaped skylines, and outmaneuvered the shrewdest minds in business. But tonight, he couldn't sleep because of a boy with scuffed shoes and a battered nylon bag. He tossed on his expensive mattress, staring at the ceiling of his penthouse, eyes wide open. That image, the boy's face, kept floating back. And the photograph. He turned over and groaned. It couldn't be. He was probably just overthinking. Coincidences happened all the time. But deep down, a voice whispered. It wasn't a coincidence. He rose from bed and walked barefoot to his study. The city's skyline glowed beyond the glass walls, but Silas barely noticed it. He opened the drawer again and pulled out the box. There she was, Eva. Her smile unchanged, even after all these years. He could still remember the way she laughed, how she used to twirl her curly hair around her finger when she was nervous, and how she always made him feel calm, something few people could do. Eva. He hadn't said her name out loud in over a decade. They had been in love once. Truly. Madly. The kind of love that was real before wealth and responsibility began to drown him. They were just 22 then, reckless and wild with dreams. They used to lie on the grass at university and talk about traveling the world, starting a family, never letting success steal their souls. But then it happened. His father's sudden stroke, the collapse of their family business, and the sudden inheritance of a world Silas wasn't ready for. His family demanded more from him. More image. More control. More status. And Eva, with her modest clothes and stubborn independence, didn't fit the Mendez legacy. They fought. Then one night she was gone. No note. No text. No explanation. He searched. He called. He begged mutual friends to tell him where she went. No one knew. And eventually, Silas stopped trying. But now he wasn't sure he had ever truly stopped. That boy, Zion, looked like her. The same shape of the eyes. The same fire when he spoke. And the photo he carried, it wasn't just like the one in Silas's drawer. It was the same one, only complete. And in the version Silas had, the baby was torn away. The piece he never knew existed. The next morning, Silas canceled all his meetings and called someone he hadn't spoken to in over a year. Vivian Idris, his former private investigator. She used to dig up dirt on competitors and track down assets during acquisitions. But she had also once helped him search for Eva before he gave up. Vivian, I need you, Silas said as soon as she picked up. Didn't think I'd hear from you again, she said, her voice dry but curious. What's this about? I need to find a boy.
His name is Zion.
He's about 12. Lives around the shipping district near the old fish market. He shines shoes and sleeps rough. I also need any record of a woman named Eva. She would have been his mother. There was a pause. You think he's yours? She asked. Silas didn't answer right away. I don't know, but I need to find out. That same morning, Zion walked the cracked sidewalk back to the old warehouse where Mama Effe lived. She was his only family. Blind, frail, and sharp as a blade. Mama Effe had taken Zion in when he was about 6, or maybe 7. He wasn't even sure. She had found him curled behind the market stalls, trying to drink rainwater from a broken cup. She didn't ask where he came from. She just wrapped her shawl around him and said, "Well, you're mine now, whether you like it or not." Since then, she had raised him in the best way she could, feeding him with soup when there was food and stories when there wasn't. When Zion walked through the door, she already knew something had happened. I felt trouble on your face before your feet even hit the floor, she said. Zion chuckled. It's not trouble. It's something strange. He sat down beside her, taking off his shoes and setting his torn bag on the table. I met a man yesterday. Congratulations, she said dryly. No, not like that. He helped me. Some boys jumped me. He made them run. Then he gave me money and his card. Mama Effe raised her eyebrow. A rich man gave you money for nothing? He said I had guts. She leaned forward slightly, nostrils flaring. What was his name? Zion took out the business card and read aloud. Silas Mendez, CEO of Mendez Holdings. Mama Effe's fingers twitched. Her face drained of color. What little she had. She sat back and whispered, "That name, I haven't heard it in 13 years." Zion turned to her. You know him?
No.
But I knew your mother. Zion froze. His heart skipped. You knew her? You knew my mom. Mama Effe nodded slowly.
Eva.
She came here the year I opened the shelter. Young.
Scared.
Pregnant. Zion's voice cracked. She was my mom? She never said who the father was. Never. But I remember one night she was burning with fever. Delirious. She kept whispering a name over and over. What name? Zion asked, leaning forward. Silas. Mama Effe whispered. Zion felt his skin go cold. The card in his hand suddenly felt like fire. I don't believe this, he murmured. He can't be. I don't know, child. All I know is Eva died giving birth to you. She loved you so fiercely. She made me promise to raise you away from harm. She said, he must never know, not until he's strong enough to stand on his own. Zion stared at the table. Silas Mendez. The man who gave him money. The man who knelt beside him with kindness. The man who might be his father. By the next evening, Vivian was back in Silas's office. She dropped a manila folder on his desk and crossed her arms. I found him. Silas looked up sharply. He sleeps near the East Docks. Sometimes behind the fish market, sometimes in a busted school bus. He stays close to a blind woman who runs a sort of shelter for street kids. Her name's listed as Effe. Records check out. Not registered officially, but she's kept about a dozen kids alive over the years. Silas opened the folder. Photographs. Reports. Medical records. And then, a certificate. Eva Alyawadabi, deceased. Cause of death. Complications during childbirth. Next of kin. None listed. Date. 12 years ago. Hospital. St. Helena's Free Clinic. Silas gripped the paper so hard it crumpled in his hand. She died alone? He asked, voice tight. Vivian hesitated. There's a witness report. Midwife said she asked them not to contact anyone. She had no ID. No family on record. Just had the baby and died 3 hours later. Silas turned to the next page. A birth record, unofficial. Written in rushed handwriting. Child's name, Zion. Mother, Eva. Father, unknown. The paper trembled in Silas's hands. Sir, Vivian said softly, that boy is yours. Silas didn't answer. He stood up slowly. I need to see him. That evening, Zion sat beside Mama Effe on a bench outside their warehouse. He hadn't spoken much all day. Child, she said gently, I know your mind is full. Zion nodded. If it's true, he said, why didn't he look for me? Maybe he didn't know, she said. Maybe the world kept you two apart for a reason. Zion looked down at the photo in his hand. I've always wanted to know who I was, where I came from, but now that I might know, I'm scared. Mama Effe reached out and held his hand. Don't be scared of the truth. Be strong enough to face it. At that moment, headlights appeared. A black SUV rolled to a stop in front of them. The door opened. Zion stood, heart pounding. Out stepped Silas. He looked different in daylight. Less perfect. More human. Their eyes met. Neither spoke for a long moment. Then Zion took a step forward. And so did Silas. For a moment no one moved. The black SUV had just rolled to a stop outside the old warehouse shelter. The engine went silent, and the man inside stepped out slowly, his face unreadable under the soft glow of the streetlight. Silas Mendez looked taller than Zion remembered. Taller and yet not intimidating. His navy blue coat swayed gently in the breeze. His eyes locked with Zion's. Zion's throat tightened. He didn't know what to feel. Anger? Confusion? Hope? Silas took a few slow steps forward and stopped in front of him. He looked over at Mama Effe, who sat quietly on her bench, hands resting on her lap like a queen on her throne. Then he turned back to Zion. I didn't come here to scare you, he said gently. I came because I think I owe you the truth. Zion's voice was small but steady. The truth about what? Silas opened his hand and revealed something wrapped in tissue. He unwrapped it carefully. A photograph. The same photograph, but torn. The half that had only Eva in it. I had this picture in my drawer for 12 years, Silas said. Your mother gave it to me before she left. I didn't even realize the baby in her arms was missing. Until I saw your half. Zion looked down at his pocket and pulled out his own copy, the complete one, burnt at the corners, but still whole. They stood there, each holding a piece of the same truth. I loved your mother, Silas said, his voice catching. We were young. Life got complicated. I didn't treat her the way she deserved. I let my family pressure me into walking away. And when I realized what I'd done, it was too late. She was gone. Zion said nothing. I never knew she was pregnant, Silas added quietly. If I had, I would have moved heaven and earth to find you. The boy's lip trembled slightly. Then why do I feel like I grew up in hell? Silas closed his eyes briefly. I don't have an answer for that. Only regret. There was a silence. Then, Mama Effe cleared her throat softly. Zion, go with him. Talk. You don't have to decide anything tonight. But truth is best served while it's warm. Zion nodded slowly. He followed Silas into the SUV. They drove in silence. Zion kept glancing out the window, unsure what to say or feel. He wanted to scream. He wanted to cry. He wanted to believe. But mostly he wanted to understand. Silas didn't push him. He simply drove until they reached the edge of the city, to a wide compound surrounded by trimmed hedges, glass buildings, and warm yellow lights. Zion stepped out and looked around. It was like something from a dream. Is this your house? He asked. It's one of them, Silas replied. But tonight, it's just a place for us to talk. Inside, the walls were lined with art and quiet. A fire crackled gently in a stone hearth. The furniture looked untouched. Everything smelled clean, like lemon oil and history. Zion sat on the edge of a plush chair, afraid to lean back. Silas brought him a mug of hot cocoa. I used to drink this when I was your age, he said with a small smile. Zion took it, but didn't smile back. Silas sat across from him. I don't want to force anything, he began. You don't have to call me anything. You don't have to believe a word I say. But I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Zion looked down at his cup. Why didn't she tell you? He asked. Silas sighed. I think she was trying to protect you. Or maybe punish me. Or both. Do you have other kids? Silas shook his head. No. Just you. Zion's brow furrowed. So, what now? You want to take me and turn me into what? A rich kid? Silas gave a small laugh. No. I want to give you choices. If you want school, I'll give you school. If you want to go back home, I'll respect that too. But I want to be in your life. If you'll let me. Zion didn't respond. He stood and walked toward the fireplace. His eyes landed on a small framed photo on the shelf.
Eva.
Younger.
Smiling.
He picked it up. She looked like me. Silas stood beside him. You look more like her than you know. There was silence between them again. But this time, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was heavy, sacred. Like something was shifting between them, something deeper than words. Finally, Zion turned to him and whispered, Do you really think I'm your son? Silas's eyes welled up. I know it. Zion stared into his eyes, searching for lies. But he found none. I don't know how to be a son, he said. And I don't know how to be a father, Silas replied. Maybe we figure it out together. The next morning, Zion returned to the warehouse to gather his things. Mama Effe was waiting for him on the steps. You're leaving, she said, not as a question but as a truth. Zion nodded.
He wants to help.
I don't know if I trust it, but I want to try. Mama Effe stood and placed her hands on his cheeks. You will always be my boy. But maybe now you get to be his too. Tears slipped down his face as he hugged her tightly. I'll come back. I'll check on you every week. I promise. I know you will. Weeks passed. Zion moved into Silas's estate, slowly adjusting to a life he never thought he'd have. He now had his own room, a tutor, a personal doctor who treated the wound in his side that had been bothering him for months. But more importantly, he had Silas. Not hovering, not pretending, just present. They had breakfast together,
Took walks.
argued over football, laughed over old stories of Eva that Silas would share late into the night. Zion still polished his own shoes. It was his way of remembering where he came from. One afternoon, Silas took him to the office. He introduced Zion to the staff as a very special young man. Whispers followed. Eyes widened. But Silas didn't explain.
Not yet.
That evening, he sat Zion down. I want to start a foundation, Silas said. For street kids. For boys like you. We'll build shelters, education centers, clinics. We'll name it after your mother. Zion's heart swelled. She would have liked that, he said softly. Silas smiled. And I want you to be the face of it. Zion's eyes widened. Me? You're brave. You survived more than most grown men. You've got something the world needs, truth. Zion hesitated, then nodded. Okay. 3 months later, at a grand event hosted at the city's largest conference hall, Silas stood on stage in front of cameras, philanthropists, and press. He tapped the microphone and smiled. Tonight, I want to introduce someone very special. Someone who reminds me every day of what matters. He turned and extended a hand. Please welcome my son, Zion Mendez. Gasps filled the room. Whispers swept through the crowd. Zion walked out slowly, dressed in a neat navy blazer, holding his shoeshine brush in one hand and the full photograph in the other. He stepped to the mic and smiled nervously. I used to sleep in a broken bus, he said. I used to fight for scraps. I didn't know who I was. All I had was a photo and a hope. He paused, eyes glistening. Then one day, someone saw me, not as a nuisance, not as a street boy, but as a person. He turned to look at Silas. And now, I get to call him Dad. Silas wiped a tear. The crowd stood in applause. Later that night, as they sat alone in the back of the car, Zion leaned against Silas's shoulder and whispered, Thanks for coming back. Silas wrapped an arm around him. Thanks for letting me. He didn't just save me from bullies, he saved me from growing up without a name. Now I know who I am. And I'm never going back. The end. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share for more interesting stories.